Hi Leo, welcome to Leo season and welcome to this reading. Happy birthday to you. This reading is for you if you find messages that are relevant to the situations and events that are currently occurring in your life. If you don't find messages here that are relevant for you, then this reading might not be yours. So I've already pre-shuffled all the cards and laid down your spread. We have here where you are now, the challenge you face, the resources you can use, the hidden forces, potential outcome. And from the runes, we're going to take one for what is the spiritual lesson in your situation here. Excuse me. So we have 3 major arcana cards in your reading. This looks pretty intense, I have to be honest, Leo. This looks to me like you could be dealing with a situation where I'm hearing unrequited love. Unrequited love for some of you. So with the Ace of Cups in reverse here, this could be a situation where you may have feelings towards someone and they are not returning those to you. So there's a situation here where love of some kind, it could most likely be a romantic love. But because we also have the Hierophant here in the reading in reverse in the position of the potential outcome, I'm seeing this as any kind of situation. It doesn't have to be romantic, where a commitment is being broken. Because the Hierophant can represent contracts or signatures or any kind of like formal institutionalized types of commitments, and seeing that it's coming out in here in reverse could mean that a contract is being broken. So this could also be pertaining to potentially a business partnership for some of you, but for others it could be a marriage or just in general any kind of connection or love interest that is not being returned to you. And the challenge you face with that, with the Judgment here in this position of the spread, it's saying that it's kind of a wake-up call. The situation is unfolding in a way that's making you have a type of revelation, perhaps either about yourself or about the person that you've been dealing with or the situation that you've been dealing with. It's causing you to have an awakening moment. There's a revelation being revealed. And it's quite a strong energy in this reading, especially with this bottom line here, which I'll get to in a second. But the Judgment card in itself is also already kind of an intense energy where, situation could be unfolding in a way where it's sort of can be shocking. It can be, it could also be something that's been quite drawn out for some of you. Maybe it's not a situation that is just all of a sudden showing up and appearing and giving you that moment of having to suddenly respond to something, but this could be something with the Judgment card. It's not like the Tower, where the Tower card reveals something that's sudden and unexpected that's showing up. The Judgment card could be something about a long evolving circumstance that you are needing to utilize as a way of having greater awareness about the self. And of course, that can be challenging here. And the way I'm seeing the Judgment card in this situation, because it is in the position of what challenges you face, maybe some of what's going on here is that because you have the Magician here in reverse and also the Hierophant in reverse, it could be that you may have already been aware for a while that the person you're dealing with maybe isn't on the same page as you, but you might not have been willing to see that or to acknowledge that or to accept that. And that could be why this feeling right now is kind of heavy. It's that maybe some kind of event has occurred more recently that is affirming to you what you may have already been being shown through the person's behavior or within the situation itself unfolding, that you haven't actually been able to acknowledge or recognize or accept or face. But now it seems like it's so in your face that it's unavoidable. Because with the Magician in reverse here, and this is in the position of what are the hidden forces or what you cannot see. This could be also what's in the subconscious. So how I'm seeing the Magician in reverse in the context of this reading is that you could be dealing with a person who's manipulative, who's been dishonest, and you might not have been able to see that until recently. Or you still might not be able to see that because it's in the position of what are the hidden forces. So perhaps a person's manipulative, shady behavior or dealings behind your back, speaking behind your back, some kind of untoward behavior or activity that you've not been aware of is heavily influencing this situation. And it feels to me like you could be dealing with a narcissist or someone who's very dishonest here with the Magician in reverse. And you may not have been fully aware of it. You might have had some suspicions, but you might have wanted to sweep aside those suspicions or ignore those red flags because you might have been really wanting this situation to work out. You might have been really feeling a lot of things for this person. If it's not a love offer or a love interest, if it's some other kind of contract here, you might have just been really putting all your eggs in this basket and hoping that it was going to work out, and that whatever suspicions that you might have had, I think you might have been hoping that those were just kind of paranoias or what's the right word? Give me a second. Maybe unverified or just unrealistic fears and anxieties that were in the back of your mind, and you were maybe hoping to just make this, to push all that aside and be just really positive about the situation. But I think here now you're realizing that what you had already suspected before, or whatever suspicions or whatever intuitions or whatever red flags you had already had about the person or the situation, are actually coming to fruition in a way that you can't deny anymore what you might have been feeling before. All right, you have two aces here, Ace of Cups in reverse and the Magician in reverse. So there's two aces, like the Magician is a 1 and the Ace is a 1. And then you have the Hierophant, which is a 5, and the 5 of Cups, both in reverse as well. So the 5 of Cups is showing up in your reading in the position of what resources you can use. So what that's saying to me is that it's important for you in this moment to accept that there has been a loss and a disappointment, and don't wallow too long in that sadness. Of course, if there, you might need to grieve, for example, if there's been something really crushing here, which it very well could be. But it's important here not to wallow too long and not to spend too much time in the suffering, but rather pick up the pieces and start to move forward here and address whatever issues came up in the situation, not necessarily the disappointment and heartbreak itself. Yes, of course, feel your feelings. Of course, feel your feelings. Don't deny or suppress your feelings. But don't get stuck too long in the process of ongoing sadness and suffering, or ongoing disappointment, or ongoing regret and remorse about whatever choices you made that brought you to this place. What's important here is to face whatever it is that has made you have an awakening moment, whether that's about the fact that you might have been dealing with a dishonest person or someone who has been manipulative or narcissistic, and start to address, like, maybe excuse me, the factors in your life that you have, how do I say that? Rather than get stuck too long, like I said, in the regret or the remorse or the disappointment, use this as a moment of moving forward and brush yourself off and accept the fact that you may have ignored some red flags here, and that might have led to this moment where you're dealing with something a little bit more difficult and extreme than it would have been if you had responded to those intuitive impulses much sooner. And just accept the fact that it happened the way it did, and you made the choices you made, and now you're just going to move forward from here and make the best out of the situation, and not keep trying to live in the past by wishing you could go back and change the choices that you made, or change the course of the unfolding of this circumstance, because there's absolutely no point in that at all. So don't struggle over the suffering. Yes, feel your feelings, but accept that this is where you are now, and just deal with what you're facing from this point forward. Don't get caught up in the game of living in the past in your mind and ruminating over the circumstance, or ruminating over the experience, or reliving conversations that you had, or remembering moments that you suspected things, or where your intuitive impulses were sharing like warnings with you or whatever that you didn't heed. But just accept that that's what you chose, and now is the moment where, okay, this is the point of no return. The Judgment card is saying this is the point of no return. You understand here exactly what's happening, what you're dealing with, and it's moving forward from here on. Now, the Magician in the reverse I've covered. Like I said, this is the position of what are the hidden forces. So the Magician in the reverse clearly explains that you could have been dealing with a person who is dishonest or manipulative or using you in some way, taking advantage of you, taking advantage of your good nature, maybe taking advantage of the fact that they could have seen that you were actually really in love with them and they weren't, and maybe that led to them either being abusive in some way, whether that's emotionally or mentally, taking advantage of you in some way. That's what I feel here with the Magician. Someone has taken advantage of you because they could feel your desire for them, or they could feel your optimism about the situation, or they could somehow take advantage of something in your nature that they saw as a weakness because you were not able to see who they really were. And that gave them an entry point for them to take advantage of the situation. Now, again, the Hierophant and the Magician here are both kind of pointing to a person that you might have been dealing with who's, again, either unethical, manipulative, dogmatic, tyrannical, someone who misused their position of authority, perhaps. That could also be the Hierophant, because the Hierophant could represent a teacher as well. Remember in the beginning I was saying, like, it could indicate here as well a contract being broken or an agreement being broken or not fulfilled or not lived up to. That's also the Hierophant, especially in the reverse. It's like a commitment or a promise or a contract being not met or unfulfilled. The Hierophant also in your reading in this position is offering some guidance for you as far as, you know, picking up the pieces and moving on from here. How to move forward is to, again, as I said, address whatever may be in your nature that led to, without being like, you know, self-flagellating or blaming yourself or any of that kind of thing, but utilizing the energy of the Judgment card and the Hierophant reverse to see how you might have actually allowed for this situation to happen in the first place. Like what is it in your energy that enabled this person to get the footing that they had to take advantage of the situation in the way that they've done it. And with the Hierophant reversed, as far as the potential outcome here, or perhaps guidance that your higher self and your guides are offering you here, is saying in the future, look towards doing things in maybe a little bit more unconventional way. Or perhaps it's also a warning to say, let this be a way of starting to recognize and see people who are coming into your energy that have this kind of quality of being either dogmatic or manipulative or unethical or somehow lacking integrity. Like these two cards together clearly are talking about something or someone that lacks integrity. Magician reversed, Hierophant reversed. Like these two cards in the upright position are very powerful individuals. It's a very powerful and strong indication of someone who's in a position of authority, position of power. And because they're both in reverse, it means someone has taken advantage of their position of power and misused it. They've misused their position, they've abused their power, they've abused their authority, they've taken advantage of perhaps your position being one of a slightly, what's the right word there? Without like trying to be, how do I say that? Like they had the upper hand. Basically, this person had the upper hand, and they took advantage of the fact that you were either kind and loving, or didn't see the shenanigans, or couldn't see the manipulativeness, or couldn't see their agenda and how they were actually able to maneuver into the situation to be able to take the position that they took with you. All right. Now let's take a look at this rune. This rune is describing what is the spiritual lesson here. So let's see. I'm going to pull up some notes here about this. I do know this rune is called Pertho, and it's about fertility. But let's see if there's anything deeper there. Okay. So in the notes that I have here, this rune is about a secret matter, a mystery, hidden things, occult abilities, initiation, knowledge of one's destiny, knowledge of future matters, determining the future or your path. It's pertaining to things feminine mysteries, including female fertility and the vagina, It's a good fellowship and joy, and it's evolutionary change. So I would connect this actually to the Judgment card in this situation, because you have two Cups cards here, and like I said, you have these three strong major arcana cards. But these three, I would say, it's pretty masculine energy, 1, 2, 3, and then there's these two feminine cards. So how I'm reading this is that I think what I would take away from this for you is that your feminine power is stronger than you realize. And maybe you kind of feel like you were in this situation vulnerable because of your femininity or because of your feminine power, regardless of whether you're a male or female here. I think that what's playing out here is like your compassionate energy, your loving energy, your softness, your kindness, your generosity might have been used against you. And it says here to me that what you're learning here is that your feminine energy or your femininity is actually a strength and not a weakness. And while you might have those qualities, I think in this circumstance, what you're being shown here is how powerful your intuition actually is. And I think you had impulses and understandings about this person quite early on, but you chose to override that with these kind of feelings of like trying to be optimistic, hoping for the best, hoping that what you suspected or saw was just like a paranoia or a fear or an anxiety, and that you maybe tried to override your intuitive impulses with positivity and hoping for the best and trying to put aside, suspicion or paranoia or doubt or fear. But actually that was your intuition coming through loud and clear. And hopefully this circumstance is helping you to see that your intuition is actually really good and really on point. And while this situation might have played out in a way that has left you feeling quite disappointed and maybe even stunned, in hindsight, if you look back over things, you'll realize that you maybe knew this was coming in a certain way, and that in future you'll never override your intuition again. This is actually an actual evolutionary step for you. While this situation might itself feel quite painful and difficult, what it is on a spiritual level is actually an upgrade or an initiation. Exactly what the Judgment is, and that's the way I usually read it. It's like the Judgment to me is a card about a spiritual initiation where you go through a trial by fire, something very difficult here, but in the end, what you end up with is increased abilities, increased power, increased self-authority, increased self-awareness. And that's actually the best you can ever really hope for in any situation. So regardless of whether or not a person let you down and disappointed you or took advantage of you or any of those things, you come out understanding better who you are. And that's what's important in here. Okay, Leo. That's it for your reading for this time. Thank you so much for watching. It's been an honor and a pleasure to read for you. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next reading. Bye for now.